Aloha, beautiful pod. Bliss here, doing a little love stream called All the World is a Stage and Coherence is Our Superpower. So, we arose this morning with a lot of downloads coming in. We had a little massage the other day and it actually put a rib out. We had a lomi and it was very intense on the body. So, whenever We Bliss works with pain, we discover a lot of information can come into the body. And so coherence is key, and coherence is our superpower to access these levels of information. And so we were inspired to rise today and do this little love stream to say all the world is a stage and coherence is our superpower. So we're going to go back to this great book by Richard Rudd, The Gene Keys, and to just share with the human family the All the World is a Stage piece. So if anyone goes to the Gene Keys website and does their free profile chart, they will get printed out the role in the play that they are playing. And what happens when we start to read the Gene Keys and discover the aspects of our chart, we go like, wow, this is crazy. This book describes me to a T. How can that be? That's what happened for my consciousness many years ago, over a decade ago, when I first got into the Gene Keys and human design and astrology decades before that. But the Gene Keys, I don't know, there was something about this book. I was already going through a very cathartic process. So let's talk about catharsis for a moment. Catharsis is like ego death. And ego death is very uncomfortable in a world where people have not learned through the education of their society what ego death is. Ego death is the dying of the personality that we think we are and the role in the play that we're playing. So the spirit is electromagnetically connected to the form of our physical body, and that physical body has a certain genetic sequence that is activated to bring through a very unique and specific personality in each people's form. And each person's personality and body is absolutely unique throughout all the cosmos, which is why our eyes and our fingerprints are signatures of who we are. So if you think this love stream is going to be inspiring, please share it. That's called gifting. There's like a little share button right here somewhere, and you can share it live right now. Okay, so we are going through a collective catharsis, a collective ego death of the roles and the play that we have all been playing in. And that's really what COVID was about. COVID was about pushing people inward into quarantine, into their cocoon, to do the shadow work, to release a lot of unconscious energies and to get to know ourselves better from the place of the pure source consciousness. And so that was all about overcoming unconscious patterns can create fear. And so when people are forced to go and look at those unconscious patterns, we realize that fear is false evidence appearing real. And we transform. We actually create alchemy in our physical body. This is what it means to be the alchemist, is to turn on all of these systems in the body by learning to turn off the egoic systems in the body. We're not saying ego is a bad thing. Ego is like a car. It gets us from point A to point B. And so the catharsis that is occurring is nothing makes sense anymore. And that is a good sign that one is in an ego death and a catharsis. And so it can be really fun when we know what it is and when we understand that everyone on the planet is going through the process simultaneous. different people are at different phases and stages. The true indigenous people on the planet who have been the wisdom keepers, who have remained in their despachos, their ceremonies in connection with nature, are really not experiencing the ego death or the catharsis the way we are, because they always remained in balance with nature. The ego construct itself that much of the Western world has been existing in was not in alignment with nature. It was like a different harmonic. Maybe it's a great experiment, who knows, but the stage is being taken away by nature. And so when this transmission was coming in, this miracle rising, one of the things the guidance reminded we to share is that in June of 2018, I did a love stream with Todd Medina, and it was either a full moon or a new moon in the middle of June. And when I rose that day, the guidance said the precession of the equinoxes had come to an end. And I was shown this massive pillar coming out of the earth, and it was coming through the area of the Pacific Northwest, but really it was a huge pillar. It wasn't like just a small pillar. And that's, the guidance said that the pillar of Delphi was restored, and that this was the axis mundi. So if anyone knows about the precession of the equinoxes, it has to do with the notion that the idea that the earth came into a tip and the axis tipped, and then we were going through these 26,000 years of the precession of the equinoxes. But the guidance said that the precession of the equinoxes had come to an end. So of course, from linear time and from mainstream media, this would not be something that would be reported. We are an oracle. The guidance that day said the oracle, the pillar of Delphi, was restored. So what we received on that day was that human consciousness as an antenna to cosmic information was transforming, and that humans were going to begin to receive new intel from the cosmos to guide them. And so, of course, that first of all was expressed through Corona, the opening of the crown, and then the whole thing called COVID, which is a whole different stream. But we won't go there right now. What we want to share is that what the universe was saying that day is that the Earth, the planetary body, was preparing to take the stage away. Remember, this transmission started with the message, all the world is a stage, and coherence is our superpower. So really what the guidance was showing us, that we all are playing a role in a play. And if one wants to know what their role is, they can easily go to the Gene Keys website and do their free profile and then begin reading about their role in the play. It's just a script that is flowing through us when we live from an unconscious state. Unconscious state means we are not aware that we are something beyond the personality, beyond the body, beyond the mind, beyond our reality. That is what it means to live in an unconscious state. It's not good, bad, right, or wrong. It just means that one identifies with their personality, with their car, with their house, with their family, with their community, as though it is all a construct that is real, as though it is the only thing that is real. And so as we begin to rise our vibration up, and if we didn't rise our vibration up, that's okay, because the planetary body is rising its vibration up, and we are all made of this planetary body. So as the planet rises its vibration up, whether we realized we are not the role in the play or not, because the Hopi prophecy, the Hopi Indians, we share about this on all these love streams, the Hopi held a prophecy that said the time of the union of the eagle and the condor would come. Thanks to Ria Amora for this beautiful painting from Peru. The time of the eagle and the condor reuniting would come. And that meant the union of the mind and the heart, the masculine and the feminine. And it also was telling us that there was an energetic unification that would come on the planet that would collapse the polarities into the singularity. So that means the energy of the planetary body is shifting electromagnetically. So we were experiencing ourselves in a dualistic, that's really what the ego was a mechanism to express, is a dualistic experience of separation. And separation was a play to experience and perceive in unique and different ways on behalf of creation. Take what resonates, throw the rest away. And if this love stream is inspiring, please share it. That's called gifting. I think there's a little share button right there, so you can share right now while we're live and sharing. So we're sharing this to assist our human family to understand that as our lives are going through these massive transformations, nothing makes sense. And that's part of the purpose of all of this, is because everything is collapsing. As Shakespeare said, all the world is a stage. The stage and the roles are collapsing. So it is a good sign when we reach that point where nothing makes sense and we don't know what to do, where to go, where to turn to. Everything that meant something to us suddenly loses its, its value and its meaning. And this can happen very, very instantly now, especially if we are over-identified with our personality. And that's okay. We're sharing these pieces to assist our human family to understand what is happening. So when nothing makes sense anymore, just breathe. Just be still. When this process was happening to me over many years, and it got super intense, where everything I held in my electromagnetic awareness, because as human bodies in polarity, in duality, we have electromagnetic charges. We have a positive and a negative charge. And that's, the good and the bad. All those perceptions, right, wrong, masculine, feminine. So as I started to go through my massive alchemical shift back into 0 point, back into absolute coherence, these massive waves of energy would come into my form, and I would start to panic. And I would think, I have to call a friend. It's because this place I'm in, I never want to come back to this place. The energy here is bad. It has something to do with my story, why I'm feeling this way. All these things would come into my mind that were trying to explain to me why I was feeling all of this energy. And we used to share this a lot on love streams, and we're guided to share it again right now, is that the guidance would come in and the guidance would say, no, you don't have to call your friend. No, it doesn't have to do with this area that you're at right now. No, it doesn't have to do with your story. God is serving you a serving of light. Can you receive this much energy? So the energy starts to come into our body as we are going deep into our unconscious, and we're unifying the unconscious and the conscious. Now we become clear conduits for so much energy to infuse the human body. And when it comes in like these really expansive states, these expansive experiences. So the metaphor I used to use was that the guidance would say, God is serving you a serving of light. Are you going to synthesize it? And the metaphor I would be shown is like when a baby is sitting in a high chair and they have a little tabletop in front of them. And so usually with babies, people feed the baby the food, and then they make that transition of just allowing the baby to take the spoon and learn how to feed themselves. That is the same metaphor as these massive amounts of light coming in. Are we the baby that knows how to take that infusion of light, that infusion of food, and synthesize it? Can we be present? Or are we going to be triggered by that energy because it activates the fear systems, the fight or flight, the limbic system, all of these areas inside of us? And this is why coherence is our superpower, because as we go through these transformations, all kinds of sensations, all kinds of feelings, all kinds of things are going to come up in our bodies, our lives, and our awareness. So we always share this piece. We'll share it again today. The simplest way to have coherence when these infusions of light, when reactions, sensations of fear, something happens in our life and we go, oh my God. The simplest way we like to share is cross your wrists, clasp your hands, cross your ankles, close your eyes, and deep breathe until you feel a shift. That shift will be something like a sigh, an in-breath, just a it may be mental, it may be physical, it may be emotional. Once you feel the shift, open your eyes, hold your fingertips together like this. Eyes open now. You want to make sure your eyes are open, because now we're coming back into our physical surroundings. We're allowing ourselves to be stabilized in our physical surroundings again. There is a difference between closing our eyes and staying inside and then coming back out to just go, I'm okay, I'm okay. This brings coherence of the hemispheres of the left and right brain. So when the left and right brain work together, we experience peace, we experience coherence. This is why we say coherence is our superpower, especially now. Now the mind might come back in and go, I have something to do, I've got to go fix it right now. The mind cannot fix the problem inside of the thinking that created it, meaning the dualistic mind can resolve nothing now. And that's why the Hopi prophecy said to us, before the end of time, before the end of this container of the fourth world, they called it the fourth world, and they said it was created to resolve our miscreations in time from our misunderstandings of cosmic principles. So we spoke about the indigenous before. We did a despacho the other night with a Kiro elder from high up in the Andean mountains. And many of these beautiful indigenous people, like the Kalahari Bush people, or the Kiro in Peru, or the Shipibo, also in the Amazon, these are people who have remained at a level of coherence with nature. So they're not experiencing the same things as we are right now, but what they might be experiencing is the Western world coming in to dominate and destroy the areas that we live. And that's another topic. So many of us have been doing many things on the planet for many years to support these people who are the true stewards of the garden, to sustain the garden and to be held and loved and honored and respected and protected. Back to the Hopi prophecy, which said that this fourth world was a container created to resolve our miscreations in time. If this love stream is inspiring, please share it. That's called gifting. There's that little share right down there somewhere. You can push it right now so more people can be live with us. Okay. Resolving our miscreations in time from our misunderstandings of cosmic principles meant that we were given an egoic, dualistic mind, a mechanism inside of us that we had to bring into Libra balance. So that dualistic mind has been the gift inside of us. The ego has been the gift inside of us, because it has provided a mechanism in the waters of our body to learn to find balance, energetic balance, because ultimately this is all about sensation and it's all about energy. And we'll talk a little bit about subtle energy. So even though it's not reported in the mainstream news, that fourth world came to an end. And what the Hopi prophecy said is that we would receive the teachings from the red hats who would come small in number from the east, and that's the Buddhist teachings. And they would bring the teachings to utilize the mind. They didn't say the mind was bad. They said that the mind served a purpose to come into the state of the diamond mind, which is use the mind to learn to stabilize coherence and balance. And when the fourth world came to an end, according to the Hopi prophecy, which we are now vastly in, the fourth world has come to an end. And so we're sharing this to assist our human family to ride in the center of the river, to keep our heads above water, look around, see who is with us, celebrate. Where the prophecy said this could be a time of celebration. The river knows its destination. It is flowing faster than ever. It's miraculous. So they said, once the end of the fourth world came, our survival would be contingent on the quality of our heart. So let's go back to what we talked about, catharsis, or a cathartic crisis, and the collapsing of the ego. The collapsing of the role in the play that each one of us has been playing. So if mainstream news and mainstream media was saying, hey, everyone, it's okay to be going through catharsis. Let's all practice our whole brain state. Let's all breathe together. Imagine if mainstream news every night had to anchor people who did 20 minutes of meditation, and then we did 30 minutes of breathing together. And then we did what our friend Skyhorse says, put our hands above our heads instead of, as he pointed out on our last love stream, when we're looking down at our computers and our phones, it keeps all of our energy in our root, survival, and sacral chakras. So Skyhorse is saying that when we put our hands above our head and keep them here and go for a hike, it starts to activate all of this higher energy, higher synthesis, higher wisdom. Imagine if the mainstream news did that every night. Well, the good thing is we are sitting on something called the princess lines. And if you wish to contribute to the princess lines, I will offer some ways to do that. We have the pod created a GoFundMe and so on. But I want to talk again about the princess lines because I've talked about them before. Princess Diana came to me in 2016 and started to show me how to meticulously, step by step, unplug the misinformation systems so that we could create these grid lines that would go out to the conscious and unconscious aspects of ourselves, because we're sitting on this very special location called the Heart of the Dove in a very specific place to take the narrative higher. So where two gather, that's all it takes. Where two or more gather, we have as much influence as mainstream media, which maybe reaches millions. We're going to say millions, not billions. We have as much influence where two or more gather, because all our DNA communicates non-locally. So where two conscious beings meet in conscious communion, this is more powerful than where a million unconscious beings meet. So let's all pat ourselves on the back for meeting in conscious communion right now. And if this love stream is inspiring, please share it. That's called gifting. Because these love streams and conscious communications that all of we are having on the planet are awakening the consciousness, which is why each person, get out and share your gifts. One person makes all the difference. And in the domino or the 100th monkey effect, It only takes one person. Okay, back to the play. So this play is a stage that is falling away. How do I know? Because on these princess lines, we did an online retreat, which had about 5, 6, maybe 7 transmissions. And they were called the Princess Line transmissions. We did them in the middle of October. And the guidance came in and decoded the entire Metatronic blueprint, which is the 64 codons, the 64 star tetrahedron. And the beautiful thing was the decode for the entire metaverse came through days before Facebook changed its name to Meta. So in linear time, a higher consciousness was coming into the collective because we all chose it together. There is no good, bad, right, wrong. There's no evil here. We are one human family on this journey together. And the thing that keeps it an equal playing field is that everyone has or had an equal role in the play. No role is stronger, more powerful, or better. That's the most important thing to understand. It doesn't matter if you're a president, if you're a soldier with a gun, if you're a border guard, a police officer, or a stay-at-home mother. It doesn't matter if you live in a tent on the streets, or if you're a cosmic, supranatural organic farmer. Every role is the same. Every role is equal because they're all part of the hexagram of the 64 codons. Again, very important to understand when we're inviting all of our human family in 2022 to rise up and find the courage to be the full expression of our role in the play. This love stream is inspiring. Push that little share button right there. Thank we. We love we. Okay. When I was carrying bundles for the Indigenous in 2014, all over the grids, sacred water blessed by the 13 grandmothers, crystals blessed by the 13 grandmothers, the star knowledge bundles for the Lakota Dakota families, all of these different sacred bundles, carrying them to sacred sites on the ley lines of the earth to unlock, to open up the energy such that these invisible ley lines, so to speak, would be flooding the human consciousness to wake up. When I was in Israel, the guidance kept saying, claim your role in the play. Claim your role and go for the Academy Award and tell everyone else to claim their role in the play, which means if we are an instrument in an orchestra and we are in a collective play, bring our harmonics together in such a way that we are the best role in the play we can be, while simultaneously understanding that we are not our roles in the play. That metaphor I've used many times of like the people who played the roles in Cats and they traveled around the world on global stages for 20 years playing the same roles. They may be identified with the roles in the play. We are not the president. We are not the stay-at-home mom. We are not the supernatural, cosmic, organic farmer. They're all roles in the play. So to be a highly attuned instrument and to be in a symphony orchestra and play our roles the best we can is all about coherence and vibration. What happens when we come into a coherent state, which is called 0 point? The role can play through us. It no longer requires push-pull, roller coaster dynamics with anything or anyone outside of us. The universe can infuse our clear conduit to make the full expression of our genetics in such a way that it complements the symphony that we are a part of in such a way that the universe can celebrate its own perfection. Simultaneously, we are not the role in the play. We are not the instrument in the symphony. We are gifted to have an experience of perception, of being the instrument, of being the role in the play. And back in 2014 in Israel, when the guidance said, claim your role in the play, claim your role as the walking embodied Christos, and go for the Academy Award, and tell everybody else to claim their role in the play. Why is my role in the play the walking embodied Christos, like many others who hold the 40-37-35-5? Because it's the union of divine will and the feminine Christos. But it's not who I am. I am pure source consciousness in form, having a mystical, playful experience with all the other players in the play. So as these transmissions of the cosmos keep nullifying our existence as we've known it, the cathartic crisis of the ego collapse is flooding in. And it has nothing to do with anyone or anything outside of us. It's because the procession of the equinoxes came to an end, whether astrologers acknowledge it or we hear about it in the mainstream media, not. What the guidance was saying is that the electromagnetics of the planetary body were shifting in such a way that the stage of this play, as Shakespeare said, all the world is a stage. The guidance was telling us through those transmissions that the stage was dissolving. That's why Corona, the opening of the crown, occurred in February of 2020, meaning that pure source consciousness was flooding in to the many. The crown was opening. This crown kept the cap on, kept the ceiling over us so that when we would rise up, we would keep thinking we were our ego or our role in the play. And over miracles in time, many started to break through that ceiling and become pillars to the cosmic Akash, making that connection back to pure source consciousness. So this is programmed in the genetics in the 60th gene. The 60th gene is known as the Earthship Merkaba. And Richard Rudd politely says, when the 60th city ignites in multiple beings, it will be the end of the world as we know it. And Gaia and the cells that make up her consciousness will move forth into a new reality in the blink of an eye, because it's hidden at the depth of the 60th gene. And everyone has all 64 codons inside of us. The only thing we have to transcend is gravity and time. And that is what is happening inside of us. So celebrate the cathartic crisis, because when nothing makes sense, that is one of the moments when the consciousness is being liberated from its electromagnetic pull to the body and the personality. It has a moment of vast liberation. So once again, had we been prepped for all of this in school systems for 20 years or 30 years, we would be ready, we would be prepared, as many of the indigenous have been on the planet. This love stream is inspiring. Please share it. That's called gifting. Share button. Many of the indigenous knew the time was coming for generations. So I was invited by my Hopi elders to carry corn from Hopi Nation to South America and do 3 corn exchanges with the Condor nations to unify, to celebrate, to symbolize in ceremony that it was the time of the union of the eagle and the condor, that meaning that this play was at its end. And when I did the corn exchanges, they were all very spontaneous and synchronistic. And the second one occurred, I'll share it because it's really miraculous. They were all miraculous. But the second one occurred because we had just been taken to a Lemurian portal in the mountains. And it was this super cool, it was carved, it was like a door. There was all these doors carved in the mountains, and they were exquisitely carved. And they were where ceremonies had been done. And they were telling us there is inner earth, there's other places, there's other dimensions. And that many people have remained in touch with their connection with how to access these other dimensions. So we had just been to this beautiful location high in the mountains. And then we went to a restaurant. And in the restaurant was this Peruvian man. And he was a guide. He was with a group of Western people having lunch. And I went up to him and I said, "Are you familiar with the prophecy of the union of the eagle and the condor?" And he said, "Of course." And I said, "Well, right now I'm carrying a 10,000-year-old crystal skull, and I've been sent by the Hopi to do corn exchanges to unify the eagle and the condor. Would you be open or interested?" And he began to cry. And he said, "Yes, this is a destiny moment." So he invited us to come to his village in the mountains. And we went to a sacred temple for his people. They call it the Moon Temple. Very sacred. They keep it very well protected. And he brought forth the community. And so there was children, there was babies, there was elderly people. All the community gathered. And when I brought out the crystal skull and the corn, everybody started crying. And he interpreted what they were saying. And what the people were saying is that they had been told that this moment was coming for generations. And it was so moving and touching to be a part of the fulfillment through ceremony of the end of duality, the end of these 64 codons. The consciousness that comes through We Bliss and these unity transmissions is a consciousness that comes from beyond this hexagram, beyond this container. And that's why in October, during the Princess Lines transmissions, the guidance decoded the entire metaverse, where 2 gather or more in the presence of all who attended those transmissions. The guidance came through and decoded the metaverse to open the pathways for something greater than humanity recycling around again and again for another 26,000 years in these 64 codons. Our capacity to ascend, to transcend, as the 60th gene says, as we just said, when the 60th city ignites, city means the highest frequency of that gene. When the 60th city ignites in multiple beings, it will be the end of the world as we know it. So this special conch here was gifted to me by beautiful Illumina, who received it from a beloved brother and shaman on the island of Kauai who has a Native American church. And I said to Illumina, I have a vision that we are supposed to go into the area of the Shumash lands by the painted caves and blow a conch. This was in 2020. at the time that the sun goes into the 60th gene. So the genetics work like a cosmic clock, and the sun just keeps moving through the 64 codons. And that's what Richard Rudd has explained. If you are not familiar with this, go to thegenekeys.com. You can go to the, they don't call it the clock, but they have something on their page where you can see which genes are being activated by the sun in linear time. Remember, time isn't real and doesn't exist. We're helping the consciousness find its way out of that indoctrination. So I had this vision in 2020 that when the 60th city, when the 60th gene was being activated by the cosmic clock of the sun, that we were to blow a conch in the lands of the Chumash to ignite the 60th city in multiple beings, to wake up to the awareness that we are not our role in the play. We're not our blueprint. So we did a ceremony and we blew the conch at the exact miracle coordinate when the sun was entering the 60th gene, to wake our human collective up again, where two gather. This is why as shamans we are as powerful in ceremony as entire armies. In fact, we're more powerful. And this is what the indigenous have always known is the most powerful way to bring transformation is through peace and prayer. And prayer includes shamanic ceremony. When I was at Standing Rock, it's kind of a side note. Are we going to go into that right now? Okay, we'll stay here. I'm just being reminded of when we were at Standing Rock, and many of the people who had been arrested for peaceful protest to stand against the army, the private military that was standing for the pipeline. Keep in mind, all of these big things that have happened on the planet, like Standing Rock, were the opportunity for the polarized sides to meet each other. There's no good, bad, right, wrong. It was for polarized sides to meet each other en masse, to realize we cannot fight each other, that the higher road is to always choose peace inside of the self. And that's what things like Standing Rock were about. It wasn't about the oil company being bad or the military being bad or the protesters being good. It was the moment on the stage, just like places like Ukraine, Russia. They're just moments. All the world is a cosmic stage for the polarized sides to meet in coherence. And people wake up. They wake up, they get tired of. So when we blew this conch in January of 2020, the corona opened up, which is why corona was announced less than a month after we blew the conch. And we made a post on Facebook telling the story of the genes. I will include the link here if you want to read it, because all we are doing as an oracle is reciting the script back to the collective to help the collective move through it, to move through the script so we can be complete in our catharsis, and that it doesn't have to feel like a crisis. So in sharing this message and getting this message out, which is why we created the Princess Lines with the assistance of Princess Diana, is to sit on these crystalline ley lines and send these transmissions out to the conscious and unconscious aspects of the collective to bring coherence. So, coherence is key for all of we, and to understand that what we are experiencing is miraculous. And to know that as the veils come down, and how do the veils come down? By the 60th city being ignited in multiple beings who come to the revelation, to the epiphany. I am not my blueprint. I am not my role in the play. I'm not who I think I am. I'm all of it and none of it simultaneous. Each role equal. Each role the same. And so when the 60th city is ignited in multiple beings who are still in a human body, who are still in this creation together, who now recognize, I'm not the oracle, I'm not my role in the play. I will continue to consciously play my role in the play with non-attachment. This is the key. Non-attachment is the key. So now we have millions waking up to the epiphany, and that's why we were guided to share this transmission this Miracle Day. And if this love stream is inspiring, please share it. That's called gifting with that little share button. And this is also why in the love streams that we started sharing about 2.5, 3 weeks ago, we started sharing the codes. The codes, Mary Magdalene, Mother Mary, inside of the financial systems, and invoking, inspiring, inviting our family to wake up and remove our consent from the systems, because the systems are non-organic. Systems are run by people, but the systems and structures themselves are non-organic, so there's nothing to fear. We're the ones who created them, and we're the ones who have to collectively collapse them by removing our consent. And so what we share with people in a very coherent way is that driver's license, taxes, insurance, passports, all of these things are systems that were created by the mind. Borders, boundaries, confirmation from the horn. They're all fictional things that were created by the mind that we had a collective consent around. That's confirmation. And so as we wake up and say, you mean I don't have to participate in these things? Not at all. In fact, we're calling forth all those global spiritual leaders who stand on stage, who copyright their books and pay for their car insurance, to join me in this, to say, we are the ones who remove our consent together, collectively. That collapses the play. That collapses the final structures of the stage. Because we are pure source consciousness. And as the energy wakes up in the awareness of multiple beings, we access the supra-abundance of the cosmos. We are the pillars to the cosmic Akash. And when We Bliss was shown the entire holographic computer in 2013 on a heiau in Kauai, a sacred temple, where we had sat meditating for years, receiving cosmic downloads. One miracle day, we saw the entire hologram, the living library. We were just writing a description for an online retreat and said the words, the living library, and poof, we saw it all. And we asked the guidance, what was this most massive, multi-dimensional, multifaceted thing whose consciousness was being shown? And the guidance said was the entire living library, and that my role on the planet was to restore the pillars to the cosmic Akash, which means to help steward the consciousness, to wake the consciousness up, and to guide the consciousness beyond this hexagram of the 64 codons into cosmic consciousness. So a year later, I had a very famous brain map and 1,000,000 hertz of frequency were coming into my body on the day out of time. And on that day, I say I was being shown how to operate the computer. And that's what all these transmissions, all of these codes are. We're sharing these codes where 2 or more gather. We are as powerful as armies of millions. And we have the soul's armies, so to speak. We have the masses of cosmic energies that are supporting us to share this in such a way that it has clarity, that it makes sense to all of us. Doesn't matter what bloodline, what role, who we are. It makes sense to all of us. And it starts to create epiphanies, and the consciousness goes, wait a minute. What this woman is saying is starting to make sense, because nothing else is making sense anymore. And so this is kind of like how Moses parted the veils to show the way. And we actually placed a very sacred, special crystal orb on the top of Mount Sinai one day, all by myself before sunrise in 2017, August, to open the whale's eye of benevolent creation, to flood the awareness of our human consciousness, to wake up not only from this play, but from the metaverse, from Metatron's cube, and from all that is held inside of these 64 codons. Catharsis, egoic collapse, crisis, nothing makes sense anymore, is the greatest gift. What is supposed to be happening is happening. And inside of nothing makes sense anymore, what am I supposed to do? This is where people start to remove their consent from the systems. This is why I was guided in the middle of February to stop doing online retreats and inviting a contribution and going back to open sourcing and trusting all the right resources come when we did this. I open sourced for years and was guided then to create online retreats, to create containers, to draw the right people in, to receive these transmissions over the last few years so we could complete the corrections in the corruption in the DNA to unlock the consciousness. So as we go through these epiphanies and cathartic crisis and nothing makes sense anymore, and people say, I don't want to do this job I'm doing anymore. It doesn't make sense. I hate it. I'm not happy. My heart is telling me to go out on the streets and be a musician. How will I pay my rent? This is why I'm sharing. If the entire world, if enough, domino effect, 100th monkey principle, have the conversations as I did with my landlord saying, I'm not inviting an exchange anymore. And then what if the landlords went to the bankers and said, I'm not going to invite an exchange because I love my tenants. And they're really cool and I get what they're doing because we're having conscious communication. As a collective, realizing the systems only remain intact because we give our consent to them. And then the landlords go to the bankers. We keep sharing this piece. And they go, I'm not going to ask my tenants for an exchange anymore because I have these kids in my life who are so awake. And my kids are teaching me so many things. And it doesn't have to do with money, and it doesn't have to do with the middleman, it doesn't have to do with greed. It has to do with the love in my heart and my desire to share my gifts and create beautiful communities. And we know all the right people and all the right resources are there. That's why we did a transmission at the beginning of January. And we brought in the stone soup metaphor. So we're inviting it again. We're inspiring it again in our family to call forth all the right gifts, all the right consciousness, all the right resources to say, hey, this woman Bliss is super cool. I'm going to be her benefactor. And then Bliss is connected to all these other people who are on purpose, doing what they're supposed to do. And these benefactors start supporting all of us who are on purpose. This is why we must follow inspired action. So it doesn't just happen by sitting around praying for the Pleiadians or the galactic families to come. It doesn't work that way. We are the creators of our creation. And as Dolores Cannon said, we are here to discover our power for what is called manifestation. We personally don't really like the word manifestation ourselves. Simultaneously, we are here to discover our connection with consciousness, with nature, with the cosmos, with the elementals who are listening right now to this symphony, to this choir. It is amazing. Every time we do transmissions, all the hummingbirds come all around this house. They fly into the porch. They come to the windows. They're like messengers. Nature is paying attention and listening to those who are on purpose. And the way to be on purpose is to have the courage to step up, to step out, to step away from, to remove our consent from that which drains our energy, from anything that is not awe-inspiring, and place our focus in that which lights us up. And when the downloads come in, get on love streams, get out your journals, get out your recorder, start writing the music, bring the transmission in, because every one of us is equal, whether we are living in the forests of Peru or standing at the border with a gun on our hip. We are all one equal human family, and guaranteed these, even though time isn't real, these 3 miracle months, this energy of Pisces is here for mass spiritual evolution. So even the most unexpected people are going to go through epiphanies, catharsis, revelation. Let's share this love stream out to assist the family to know and trust what this is about. We are conduits to receive this cosmic consciousness. And if we resist, it's kind of like a hose that just bursts because there's so much water flowing through it. Resistance is not only futile, it is non-existent. The guidance said in March of 2018, the free will experiment was done. That means that our cosmic consciousness, our higher self, is taking over our avatars. And the things that happen in our life are to assist the dissolution of the stronghold of the egoic mechanism that was playing a role in the play, turning on and off circuitry in the body and the brain to convince us that we are this person. So the higher self is coming in and is taking over the avatar. And this is about coherence and synthesis to dance with the essence of the beloved, to allow that connection to stream in, to surrender the egoic mechanism. And surrender in a Nike Just Do It world and a pyramidal planet or a pyramidal societal construct in the Western world, humans were not taught surrender. They were taught, no matter what it took or how much competition or ugliness or selfishness, get to the top. But the Hopi prophecy told us, at this time, our survival would be contingent on the quality of our heart. And if one is still operating from the level of the ego, they will know, because what they are doing and creating is receiving less Facebook likes, less support, less acknowledgement and recognition from the cosmos. Because that means holding on too tightly to the mind and the personality that cannot figure out how to do this. It's like that full surrender. You know, I'm being shown like when you just fall backwards into the water or into the stone, you do a snow angel. But that falling backwards into the water is the metaphor for us again and again in our own lives and our own experiences now. That's surrender. And we offer compassion and love. Coherence is key. Coherence is our superpower to allow the collapsing of the realities and then to choose consciously, not because I say so, through inspired action, through inspiration of where to give our consent and where to remove our consent. On my own journey of many, many years of this spiritual projectile, vast synthesis and waking up, the guidance just took away everything I loved. Would bring it to my world for a moment, take it away and take it away and take it away. And that went on for so long, because it was designed to place me in a state of surrender to my divinity. The sixth initiation in the 22nd gene is called imbibing at the altar. And that is all about, I want to remember what Richard calls it. Communion. The sixth initiation is the greatest experience a human being can have. This is from the Gene Keys by Richard Rudd. And this is what is happening to us as a collective. It represents the zenith of our human development and the end of our evolution on the earth. And that's what's happening. How do I know? Because in the Princess Line's transmissions, the guidance decoded the Metatronic blueprint. And this Metatronic blueprint is all about our journey on a planet called Earth. This love stream is inspiring. Please share it. That's called gifting. Okay, so yes, it represents the zenith of our human development and the end of our evolution on Earth. And this is what Christ consciousness, or what we call the Christos, is all about. And it's happening. Why? Because we called it in. We prayed it in. We were ready as a collective to be liberated from the experience, the perception of separation and suffering. The mystery of Holy Communion is the mystery of sacrifice. This is the full awakening of the Christ consciousness in a human vehicle, which requires the death of that which identifies with the principle of form itself. So for anyone going through the cathartic crisis and the death of the ego, do not project it on anything or anyone outside of ourselves. It is an inside job. It is happening inside of us. And as we understand these mechanisms, we can begin to come together, share our resources, celebrate, allow the systems to collapse, remove our consent from the systems, come into the miracle jubilee together and go, you mean I don't have to keep playing out all this crap, going to work every day, 5 days, 7 days a week? Not. That's why we are inviting the sharing of this transmission on a planetary level. We're calling in the right support to bring this transmission to the world. Where two gather or more, we're already in the transmission. And this transmission is going out to the collective consciousness because we are holding a collective, coherent container. This is the full awakening of the Christ consciousness in the human vehicle, which requires the death of that which identifies with the principle of form itself. This stage is often referred to as enlightenment. The light referred to is the pure light of the sixth body, the Atmic body, which is born from within the Buddhic body and enlightens the lower three bodies. So according to the guidance, we had a spontaneous Buddhic awakening on this planet in May of 2017 on Wesak. And we got confirmation because the Schumann resonance took a leap to 130 hertz that miracle day. And we had been guided to make a transmission 2 years before on the 5th of April 2014, which was the third blood moon of the tetrad. There was 4 blood moons in a row, and they were called the blood moons that represented the coming of the time of tribulation, which is what COVID and all that has been, is the tribulation, the unplugging from the end of the play. So on that day, the 5th of April, we were in Egypt, and it was the last day of the trip. And our group, the guidance said, was being cocooned to bring in the codes for the 144,000 to embody by August 31st, 2017. On that day, we took a sacred crystal orb into the Great Pyramid. It came from the island of Kauai, from the birthing heiau, one of 3 that went into the grids of Egypt to unlock the accounts for the awakening of the human family. On that day, when we rose, we made a post because the guidance came in and said, tell the human family today we bring the age of Pisces to an end, which is what we said in light language to the guards at the entrance to the Great Pyramid who weren't going to allow we to go in. So we started speaking light language and we said, you and I have a contract to bring the age of Pisces to an end today. So you have to let me into the Great Pyramid. So they called the police when we started speaking light language, this tall Pleiadian woman. And the police came and we spoke light language to the police, and the police took we in private escort to the Great Pyramid's King's Chamber. We put a sacred orb in to a shaft, and it went down to ignite the Queen's Chamber, to move all the collective consciousness through the Amrita meditation that we brought through at the base of Mount Challenger in Crestone, Colorado in May of 2020. And that's when we saw all souls being taken through. And that Amrita meditation I can place here in the description box after, and you can listen to it. In that meditation, we watch the guidance bring all the souls on the planet through the 12 signs of the zodiac and then into Ophiuchus, who weighed everyone's heart as light as a feather to bring the entire collective through. And that told we that we had done what we had come to do, collect all the fragmented aspects of the soul body, the soul human body, and take all of humanity through. Because we could say that humanity was being recycled again and again without the 13th sign of the zodiac, Ophiuchus, to get everybody through. So we came to restore the 13th sign of the zodiac at Dundara in August of 2017. Step by meticulous step, we're sharing pieces from the grid work that may be making sense to all of we to understand what is really happening. Take what resonates, throw the rest away. as the ego collapses and the cathartic crisis comes in a way, these transmissions begin to make more sense because the transmission is guiding the way. It's guiding the way out of the metaverse, out of the 64 codons, and into something greater. What it says here, we'll come back to that 6th initiation. What it says in the 60th gene is that the cosmos is teeming with life. And all we have to do is unify our polarities, transcend our attachment to gravity and time, to be restored to our access to the cosmic. And that's where all the cool stuff turns on. Our capacity to move in and out of time and space at will. Think golden apple, produce golden apple in the palm of the hand. But it doesn't happen from the egoic perception. And that's why the egoic mechanism is being dissolved away. That which we have identified with is being dissolved away, such that our consciousness can be liberated again. This love stream is inspiring. Please share it. That's called gifting. Okay, so the light referred to as the pure light of the 6th body, the Atmic body, which is born from within the Buddhic body and enlightens the lower 3 bodies. So as we say, back to the Egypt piece. That was the day that we made an announcement. The guidance came through and said, tell everyone the age of Pisces is coming to an end. And if we are successful, we are going to have a spontaneous Buddhic awakening in the grids in 2 years on Wesak. And then I spoke about that in love streams and podcasts for 2 years. The guidance keeps saying Wesak of 2017, which I believe was March 10th. If we raise our vibration high enough, we are going to have a spontaneous Buddhic awakening. And in June of 2016, I received the message from the guidance that we had reached critical mass and that I needed to get to Kauai, to the valley of Mount Waialeale, where Atulashi Lima, the ancient Lemurian priestess who crystallized her skull into the grids and reincarnated as Mary Magdalene, left her skull in the grids, so that she could receive the information again to pick up where she left off, to assist the consciousness to go all the way to do this together. Which is why we started bringing through the codes in the transmissions a few weeks ago, and why we shared that we were sought out in October of 2014 by a specific man of the blood of Mother Mary, who said, go find Mary, she's got the codes to unlock the accounts. So step by meticulous step, we unlock the accounts through the grids so that the consciousness transcends this hexagram forever in totality, never to karmically recycle again and again. And for 2 years, talking about the spontaneous Buddhic awakening that we could have, as we say in June of 2014, the guidance said, it's happened. We've reached critical mass. We are going to have that Buddhic awakening in 2017. And as we say, so that was the stage itself. The planetary body had its own Buddhic awakening then, which is why we received confirmation from the Schumann resonance then, that it spiked to 130. The Schumann resonance was not spiking to 130 before then. And that's the heartbeat of the earth, and it was recorded. So we went, okay, we did it. We dissolved the lesser Akash that this play has been being played out on, the Metatron's cube, the 64 codons, the masculine consciousness that was being played out in the grids. That's what Metatron's cube is. It's a masculine perception of consciousness. And this is Sophia coming in, the 13th aeon. So we are just explaining step by meticulous step for each one, and we take what resonates, throw the rest away, to maybe put some pieces together and have more epiphanies inside of the catharsis. It says right here, the 8th initiation. Those who have had the 8th initiation steer the consciousness into life-affirming things rather than into that which creates death. That's what this unity transmission is. It's had the 8th initiation. We've had the 9th initiation. His consciousness is plugged into these places beyond the 64 codon blueprint, which is why Metatron's cube and the Platonic solids never resonated for we. Okay, so we're just explaining this as best as we can in such a way that it may benefit the collective consciousness. So if this love stream is inspiring, please share it. Little share button. That's called gifting. All right, so when the Buddhic awakening happened on the planet, because what this says is that for Christ consciousness to occur, the light referred to as the pure light of the sixth body, the Atmic body, which is born from within the Buddhic body and enlightens the lower three bodies. So on a planetary level, when that Buddhic awakening occurred, it was enlightening the Christ consciousness in the grids of the planetary body. That's why we are explaining all of these pieces to understand step by step how it happened, how it's happening, and what is really happening. And we're doing it on these princess lines that supersede the ley lines of the false narrative that is being perpetuated in primetime media. So the planetary body went through her own Buddhic awakening, and as it says, the Buddhic body enlightens the three lower bodies. So the Buddhic body of the planetary body enlightened her three lower bodies, prepared the planet for its own Christos activation, Christ consciousness and the awakening of Sophia. Okay, so as it does so, it causes the causal body to dissolve, thus severing the link or bridge between the lower and higher worlds. This is a very important piece because the causal body for humans is the fourth body, and that's the soul body. This love stream is inspiring. Please share it. That's called gifting. And if you want to support these transmissions, because we just want to open source everything now, we don't want to do private retreats anymore. We want to open source it all. So if you want to support these love streams, I'm going to put links, and the pod could put the PayPal and the GoFundMe in the description box. But anyways, because we want to share this out with as many people as possible. So the soul body is the fourth body, which is the causal body, and that's what keeps the spirit reincarnating again and again. The soul body draws the spirit back to reincarnation inside the metaverse. So when the Buddhic awakening happened at the level of the planetary body, it dissolved away the lesser Akash. It dissolved away the soul body that was sustaining our capacity to recycle in the lower three chakra play. That's why it's saying it severs the connection between the lower three and the higher chakras. So we're describing this on a personal level and a planetary body level. The lesser Akash, the stage that we played out the play again and again, recycling through reincarnation, was all dissolved away. And that's what some of we as grid workers, we're sent here to do, step by meticulous step, to dissolve the mechanisms away, to dissolve the structures away such that they are non-existent, that the play can no longer be played. Just as the Hopi said, the fourth world has a purpose in time to resolve our miscreations from our misunderstandings of cosmic principles. And the Hopi prophecy said, when the union of the eagle and the condor occurs, that's the end of the fourth world. And that's what's been happening. So if we were, standing on the Pope's little balcony or on major global platform stages, we could be explaining this step by meticulous step, so we all understand what is happening and we can align in the purpose, the higher purpose that is coming. In mystical terms, this involves the dissolution of the soul. So the earth soul body has now dissolved away and human soul bodies have dissolved away. This is a touchy piece for people who are very connected to the soul. And because religion has made the soul the key. In the mechanics, the soul is what keeps we reincarnating. We don't have to reincarnate in this play. We have the capacity to access what lies at the depth of our DNA inside of our 60th gene. Access to the cosmic Akash and cosmic consciousness. This is how we do it, not by Pleiadians coming to rescue us, by awakening the Pleiadian, the Arcturian, the Andromedan, the Venusian, the star being from within us. So in mystical terms, this involves the dissolution of the soul, that aspect of human consciousness that is drawn again and again into incarnation. I'm just paraphrasing because Richard, this transmission, Unity transmission, Richard Rudd and I were born 3 days apart, same year. This transmission is kind of the next evolution of the synthesis of the gene keys and human design. This is the shortcut for those who can receive it. Okay, so thus it is said that at this point of enlightenment, the indwelling awareness can no longer take incarnation and forever escapes the wheel of samsara or illusion. Now that is something to celebrate. And that is the catharsis. Do not project the catharsis on anyone or anything. When we don't know who we are, what to do, nothing makes sense anymore, we don't feel like we have a purpose, celebrate. Because that is the moment of liberation from the wheel of reincarnation, of samsara, of illusion. And then just be present. We have our whole human family just being present right now. Then 60th city ignites and Gaia and the cells that make up her consciousness move forth into a new reality in the blink of an eye. And we say many new realities. Okay, so on with the sixth initiation. For those who are going through it, to understand it's perfectly okay. And it happens quickly now. For many of we did it over a long period of time to receive the intel so we could articulate what was happening, so that the collective could go through it quickly. The initiation of communion also shares its name with the 45th Siddhi, which describes the great mystery of taking the sacred sacrament. So this is what religion put itself in as a middleman. The churches made themselves the ones who were at the middle of the sacrament. But the sacrament is actually that surrender I talked about, falling backwards into the water and giving ourselves back again and again to the higher consciousness that is coming in. The communion involves the direct imbibing of divine consciousness at the altar. In entering this field of frequency, and this is happening to everyone on the planet, why? Because the planetary body is emanating out her own Christos consciousness energy. So whether people understand what's happening or not, it's happening to everyone because the planetary body is preparing itself for takeoff. In entering this field of frequency, you are transcending all sense of being separate from others. This is symbolized by the blood of Christ and marks the final breaking up of the karmic residue held in your DNA. Yeah. So instead of reacting or running fearfully when we are in catharsis, had this been taught in schools over the last 50 years, all the collective would understand what was happening and then could not be manipulated by the fictional false narrative of the false news through the ego construct. All the human family would be prepared and celebrating. We would be sitting together in celebration of the catharsis. Simultaneously, many are getting it now. And in celebrating this together, we can have conscious communication with other versions of ourselves and make choices to accelerate the process by removing our consent and calling everyone forth to bring their resources together for the stone soup to make this party the greatest ever cosmic event. This is symbolized by the blood of Christ and marks the final breaking up of the karmic residue held in your DNA. Thank you, Richard Rudd, for bringing this transmission through. For the grace of Christ to enter you, you must be willing to make the ultimate sacrifice. And this is the cathartic crisis part, which does not have to be a crisis if we just understood, if we just knew. The ultimate sacrifice is to give up your lower bodies and their desires, feelings, memories, dreams, and knowledge, and to be taken over by the greater being who has been waiting all along within you. To enter the great initiation is to die into the second aspect of the sacred Trinity, the Christ, who we call the Christos. So on this miracle day, because as the guidance says, where two gather in conscious communion, we transcend the need to talk to everybody. We are in this conscious communion container, communicating non-locally to our entire human family in such a way that this communication is activating all human DNA consciously and simultaneously. And guaranteed all who are participating in this miraculous love stream today and sharing it out will experience, when they walk out the door or wherever you are watching this love stream, will experience right now vast transformation and transfiguration in our external realms as an instantaneous time languaging biofeedback loop to mirror the transformation that has occurred in this miracle moment of this miracle day, because two or more gathered in conscious communion. And We Bliss will continue to share these love streams in such a way, the largest cosmic communications network for peace. And we invite all of we to stay tuned with we together as these codes and coordinates continue to come in to transform our entire collective human consciousness and to transcend forever the metaverse. And as we said in the Princess Lines when the transmissions came in October, to completely decode the metaverse and the 64 codons of the human DNA. It was miraculous to see that Facebook changed their name to Meta days later. But we had already decoded the metaverse because there are so many more fun places for the consciousness to play than inside of Metatron's cube and the Metatron blueprint. If this love stream was inspiring, please share it. That's called gifting. I will place a couple things here because the pod has made a GoFundMe to support this largest communications network for peace. We're calling in like all the right studio engineers, musicians who understand the right harmonics and how they bring consciousness into coherence rather than dissonance. We're calling in recording studios to bring meditations through these transmissions that will instantly take us all to 0 point. We're calling in the family that loves sharing these love streams on their platforms. We're calling in the awakening and collaboration of our human family. And we're calling in the stone soup. We're calling in benefactors to support the expansion of this communications network for peace. That we always say this transmission knows how to layer the lasagna with all of our human family, with our indigenous, with the people of the Amazon, with the people of the Western world, with the people of the royal bloodlines, with the people of the true royal bloodlines, with the bankers, with the United Nations, with the countries, with the presidents, with the military, with all of it. This is a transmission of benevolence and grace. It is a transmission of the Divine Sophia. And this is the consciousness that is coming into all life in such a way that they even knew it at the Sistine Chapels at St. Peter's Basilica, St. Peter's Square. The Sistine Chapels has the Great Sophia at the top of the paintings, the room that was often closed off to the public, where you're not supposed to take pictures, but it is the Divine Feminine, and she is being revered by all in the church because they're all standing beneath her and they're all looking up to her, which is why Solomon's prayer said, "Send her forth to us, for she knows your wisdom, she knows your ways, she knows how to layer the lasagna." To do this in a peaceful way. We love we celebrate we dance with we sing with we laugh with we cry with we embrace with we, divine human collective. We celebrate the Miracle Jubilee. We're hearing and feeling right now Princess Diana, we's great guide. For this is how we did it in unity and harmony and balance, just by understanding the mechanics of what was happening we were able to come together in celebration. To do it in celebration together. We